We're looking at various countries, including Singapore. And we are also talking about the possibility of the DMZ, Peace House, Freedom House. And there's something that I thought was intriguing. I think that some people maybe don't like the look of that, and some people like it very much. I threw it out today as an idea. I also told President Moon, and through President Moon, we connected with North Korea. There's something that I like about it because you're there. You're actually there, where if things work out, there's a great celebration to be had on the site, not in a third-party country. So we are looking at the possibility of doing it in that location. We're also looking at various other countries, including Singapore. I will say this, the good news, everybody wants us. It has the chance to be a big event. And the United States, I was talking to John Bolton about this a little while ago. The United States has never been closer to potentially having something happen with respect to the Korean Peninsula that can get rid of the nuclear weapons, can create so many good things, so many positive things, and peace and safety for the world. So we'll see what happens. You know, I often say, who knows? Who knows? Maybe a lot of things change. But Kim Jong-un, who has been very open and very straightforward so far, I can only say, again, so far, but he's talking about getting rid of the site, which was their big site. He's talking about no research, no launching of ballistic missiles, no nuclear testing. And he has lived up to that for a long period of time, longer period of time than anybody has seen. So we are looking at that as a potential site. Yes, I think it would be very interesting. I think it would be a great celebration if it works out well. And if it doesn't work out well, that's the way it goes.
Are you still confident the summit will happen? Is there anything that...
Oh, yeah, I think the summit's going to happen. They very much want it. We certainly would like to see it. I think the summit will happen. And personally, I think it's going to be a success, but we'll see. I will say this. If it's not a success, got to get rid of the nuclear weapons. If it's not a success, I will respectfully leave. It's very simple. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
And we've just heard from President Trump and the president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, who had a meeting this morning. The two leaders discussed working together for trade to combat terrorism and human trafficking in the region. You will recall the group Boko Haram has terrorized that part of Africa, not only by that infamous schoolgirl kidnapping, but also with murderous rampages elsewhere. Mr. Trump says the U.S. gives Nigeria $100 billion in aid. The two leaders also answered questions from reporters, and Zeke Miller is a White House reporter for the Associated Press and a CBSN political contributor. He joins us now from the White House North Lawn. Zeke, a lot of topics were covered there. Let's start with the meeting. These two leaders came out of a meeting from this morning. Do we yet have a readout of exactly what was discussed?
We got a decent sense from the two leaders there about what they discussed. A lot of focus on economic issues, on security issues. Certainly the case of military sales, foreign military sales of U.S. equipment to the Nigerian military. We know all those things came up. Obviously, one of the interesting things that we know did not come up, the president said did not come up with, was his use of vulgarity to describe African countries earlier this year. It had been widely reported. And then President Buhari sort of trying to steer clear from the subject, trying not to antagonize the president, saying he wasn't entirely sure how true those press reports were as they tried to steer clear of that subject.
A very diplomatic response there from the president of Nigeria, I thought. We're going to also bring in Major Garrett, who was there as well. Major, I thought it was very interesting afterwards. The president was asked about a lot of things, including the Iran nuclear deal, in light of the presentation just moments ago by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in which he claimed to have proof of an ongoing Iranian nuclear weapons program. So Did Mr. Trump give any indication of his current stance in light of all of this on the Iran nuclear deal?
Well, you can certainly read between the lines. The president was a bit coy, saying, I'm not going to tell you exactly what I'm going to do, but every inference you could draw from the president's remarks, generally speaking, praising the Israeli prime minister's comments, though not endorsing it specifically, saying, look, even under the deal as it exists, according to the president, in 7 years, Iran can restart its pursuit of a nuclear weapon, something, by the way, it always denied it was doing in the first place, but that is part of the overall nuclear deal with Iran. So the president is giving every indication to Congress, the Iranians, and the multilateral partners the Obama administration engaged to create the deal in the first place that he's going to get out of it by the March 12th recertification date. But the president also possibly significantly said, it doesn't mean I'm not open to negotiating a new deal, a different deal. Whether the Iranians are willing to do that is an open question. Every utterance from the Iranian regime has been no. If the United States pulls out of this deal, Iran will feel itself completely liberated from its strictures and international inspections of its nuclear facilities, and then can do whatever it chooses to do when it comes to a future of developing nuclear weapons. So that's where this stands. Interestingly, because I asked the question, I got the president to come back to the microphones to engage on a possible summit with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, because the president had tweeted earlier today the DMZ, the Demilitarized Zone, the Freedom House, Peace House would be the best place to do it, suggesting that. And I asked him, is that the only acceptable location? He mentioned one other, Singapore. But it's clear the president wants it to be there, believes that there is something that's going to come from this summit that could be genuinely historic, not only in terms of North Korea giving up its nuclear weapons, but possible reunification of the Korean Peninsula. A very optimistic appraisal of that, and some genuine news created by the president there.
Absolutely, Major. That was the next thing I was going to ask you. You jumped on it for me. North Korea, he does seem incredibly optimistic going into those talks. Zeke, I just want to bring you back in one more time and ask you how crucial a partnership with Nigeria is when it comes to fighting terrorism in Africa and beyond. Is it strategically important for the U.S.?
It's growing in strategic significance. This is not just Boko Haram. This is also the rise of ISIS in the Sahel, the sort of the general influence there, but also as it's not also just about terrorism in general. It's about leveraging Nigeria as an important diplomatic partner into a region that is only growing in importance, and a continent that is only growing more important in this century. And the U.S.-Nigeria partnership there, the notion of maintaining a military arrangement between the two countries, but also diplomatic and economic ties, is vital for U.S. interests in terms of safeguarding its presence in Africa, sort of using that as a launching pad for extending American influence there. And so that's one of the things that, if you look at the common thread between all of these, it's not just terrorism, it's also economic issues, military partnership questions, training, and things like that. It's about actually, as much as the president says, it's not about, the U.S. doesn't want to be the international policeman, but it does want to exercise its influence, and Nigeria is sort of one of those countries where the U.S.'s influence does go a very long way.
Major, I want to go back to you for a second. Another policy point that the president was asked about, or that worked its way into their statements this afternoon, was immigration. Was that a segue, or is that somehow related to their relationship, to the Nigerian relationship?
But also about those caravans of migrants seeking asylum.
Major, can you hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I didn't know who that question was for, because the connection is very weak. So I'll take it up. So it's coincidental in a general sense. But look, the president knows there is a news story happening on the border right now in San Diego. The caravan, some 200 immigrants seeking at least to apply for asylum in the United States, because in many cases they say violence in Honduras is so pervasive, so threatening to their very livelihood, that they can't survive in safety there. And so they're seeking asylum protection in the United States. The president would not describe to what degree this administration will accept those applications or grant them. But he did say, as he has many times before, you need a larger physical barrier. Without them, you will have uncontrolled immigration. And as a result, it also, the country, meaning the president said, needs tougher immigration laws. That is an ongoing dispute with the Republican-led Congress. This president has made many proposals that have not yet come to fruition. either in the Republican-led Senate or the Republican-led House. And this issue continues to appear to be an irritant for this administration, and yet an unresolved one on Capitol Hill.
All right, a lot of ground was covered at the Rose Garden this afternoon. Zeke Miller and Major Garrett, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.